It's an urban style, but it has a chicness to it.
What about these rumors that you guys don't get along?
You can tell, right?
What? You read the gossip magazines and everybody is dating everyone, everybody hates everyone, everybody's like had tons of plastic surgery and we're actually men and trannies. I mean, it's just like, you don't listen to the rumors.
The real life is so much better and so much more exciting, I think, for us. You don't want to hear.
Hey besties, woo. Seriously, we need to sit down and discuss this because Blake Lively has now submitted her responses to the motion for judgments on the pleadings and the motion for summary judgment, meaning her oppositions are officially in. When I first went through everything, the summary judgment filing was so heavily redacted that it was almost impossible to even figure out what she's arguing, what she's addressing, or what the full situation is. Entire sections, full pages, were blacked out. It felt like more than half of it was removed. I still don't fully know every argument she's making, and then, with the motion for judgment on the pleadings, Lively spent a huge amount of time just trying to convince the court that nothing in that filing should even be considered. And that the judge should instead jump straight to the summary judgment and evaluate everything through the evidence presented there. She kept pushing the court by basically saying, "You just need to conform to the summary judgment." Why? In my opinion, it's because her second amended complaint has a lot of weaknesses that Wayfair already pointed out. If the court decides the pleadings themselves are defective, the judge doesn't even need to get into all of the evidence. If he only reviews the pleadings, the question simply becomes, is this even pled correctly? Does California law apply here? Is the FEA extraterritorial? Can the law be applied to things that happened on a set in New Jersey or inside Blake Lively's home? Lively, in her judgment on the pleadings opposition, tried hard to build a connection between events that happened before filming, during pre-production, and why California law should apply to what happened on set. So she focused on HR conversations about how the production would be structured, decisions about casting, production choices, the HR system they plan to use, and discussions with Alex Sachs. Honestly, none of these points felt strong enough to create the kind of nexus she's trying to claim for California law. What she really wants is for the judge to declare the actors' loan-out agreement enforceable and rule that the California choice of law clause must apply. But I don't think that's a powerful argument, so we'll just have to see. In both filings, one thing stood out: she is absolutely trying to flip the narrative. A lot of this reads like she is reframing or counterframing what Wayfair's side has already argued. She is clearly trying to manufacture disputes of material fact. Whenever Wayfair presented a fact, she countered with her own version, essentially telling the court, "This is why trial is necessary, because our facts don't match, our experiences don't match, and our narratives are completely different. A jury needs to decide this." From her point of view, her version is extremely different from Baldoni's, but something unusual did pop up. She actually brought up issues involving other women and claimed there was a hostile environment for them too, even though these women never filed lawsuits against Baldoni, never submitted HR complaints, and are not parties in this case at all. There is no legal dispute involving them. Yet she used references to these women to build a narrative for the judge, that she was targeted because she's a woman, and that these other women were also targeted, implying a gender-specific pattern. She's trying to show that it wasn't just her who had problems, but that it was a widespread issue affecting multiple women. I don't think this is going to convince a judge. Everything she brought up about people like Jenny Slate, Isabella Ferrer, where we can't see the details, and Alex Sachs and Christy Hall, where huge portions are redacted, just doesn't seem legally relevant to her own claims, especially because it has nothing to do with what she personally experienced. Nothing to do with her. But what she's trying to tell the court is basically this: Justin claims he was alienated because she told people to alienate him. But according to her, that's not what happened at all. She's saying everyone disliked him simply because everyone already disliked Justin, and it had nothing to do with anything she personally did. One thing I really noticed here, and I want to highlight it because I genuinely think it sits at the center of everything, is this idea that Wayfair supposedly didn't have enough experience to make this film. The belief that they didn't have the skill, the background, the expertise, or the production history required. The argument that they had no business making this movie because up to this point, they hadn't made very many big productions. Yes, they had made films. Yes, they had made documentaries. Yes, they had produced projects. But they were not, a massive long-running production company that has made dozens and dozens of high-budget films. They are a relatively new production company. Alex Sachs literally described them as green. But even if people around them felt that they were inexperienced, that doesn't change the fact that Wayfair owned the material, and I think Blake, having worked with directors like Oliver Stone, Woody Allen, Ben Affleck, three extremely problematic people, let's just say that, and Paul Feig, she has this expectation that she's always going to work with top-of-the-line directors. But here, she got a newer director, one making his second or third film, and she wanted the court to understand her entire framing. So she lays it out like this. Bellin sought to monetize his feminist brand through Wayfair, which he co-founded and co-chairs with billionaire Sorowitz, who is a Wayfair financier and one of Baldoni's close friends. Shortly after launching the company, they acquired the film rights to Colleen Hoover's novel It Ends With Us. The theme of that book was female empowerment, including breaking cycles of domestic violence. Hoover was hesitant to option the film to a man, but agreed to sell the rights to Wayfair because she believed, and I'm assuming they want to say she believed in Baldoni's so-called feminist vision. Hoover explicitly requested that a woman direct the film. Okay, but here's the point, she sold the rights to her film. She did not sell the rights to choose who could or couldn't direct. She sold the rights, period. So all of that is Blake trying to build a disputed fact. Then she adds, although Baldoni had directed only 2 small films, Wayfair decided that he would direct, executive produce, and be the lead actor of the film. But he was always going to be the director. From the moment he bought the movie, that's what he intended. It's his IP. He can do whatever he wants with it. Then she says Wayfair appointed Heath, someone with even less experience, as lead producer and as president of It Ends With Us, the fully owned entity that produced the film, and that Wayfair employed all the casting crew under that entity. Heath oversaw Sachs, an experienced independent producer. Sony agreed to distribute and co-finance the film, with Giannati as its liaison, but Wayfair still controlled all aspects of production. So she is trying to argue 2 things at once, that Wayfair had total control, and also that they were completely inexperienced. As I read through Alex Sachs's deposition transcripts, I noticed that she also held the belief that Wayfair lacked experience. And while reading Sachs's explanation of why some of the women on the set had issues with Justin Baldoni, a lot of it seemed connected to control. Women wanting more control, more authority, more input. They didn't want to just be employees. They wanted to be directors, lead producers, people who held the final say. Justin, as the director, is the one who is supposed to manage. Jamie is also a PGA producer here, so he is producing. Alex Sachs is producing as well. And films often have multiple producers, each with a different but important role, but there were clashing egos about who would control what. Some people clearly felt entitled to more power. For example, Christy Hall apparently wanted to be a director. She's the screenwriter, and because she was busy working on another film and another screenplay at the same time, Justin and Jamie apparently told her no. And Christy did not like that. She felt brushed aside. In fact, Alex sent a text to Giannati about the premiere and doing promotions explaining why Christy Hall didn't want to attend. The message said Justin had been very dismissive of her when she wanted to direct and then used Jamie to try to manipulate her when she later realized she could co-direct after she got Daddio going, but co-directing isn't standard practice. If a film already has a director assigned, nobody else automatically gets to be a director too. Just wanting to direct, or wanting to co-direct, doesn't give someone the right to take over the role. And being told no is being framed as dismissive. It would be like walking into a job and saying, I want to be the boss now, and when the boss says no, responding with, well, they were dismissive and they told me I couldn't be the boss. Alex Sachs wanted to be the head producer, and she did not like that Justin brought Jamie on because she felt she had more experience than him. She believed she was fully capable of doing this without Jamie, and she became this intermediary between all of these other people with egos, because this is Hollywood, and all of these other people slowly realizing, we can get a different director. We can replace him. There was a clause in Justin's contract that if they needed someone else to direct, they could switch. They all agreed that Justin would be the director when they signed their contracts, but if things escalated and hostility happened on set, they could push him out. And I'm not going to say Justin is without flaw, because it sounds like there were disagreements. He raised his voice at Alex. There's a dispute between him and Alex on set where she says that he slammed a table during a scene right after filming a very aggressive moment where he was in a fight with Atlas, likely running on adrenaline from just finishing that scene. That's not an excuse, but a lot of the issues here come down to people stepping in and wanting control they were not entitled to have, and then turning Justin into the problem because he wouldn't give up the control he rightfully had. I just want to let that sit for a moment. But a lot of her summary judgment is basically her trying to defend herself against the claim that she turned the cast against Justin. She wants to argue it was Justin's fault, that Christy Hall didn't like him because she didn't get to be a co-director, and that Alex Sachs had issues with him because of their verbal disagreements and because she had to deal with the conflicts between female cast members and Justin. I think some of these women walked in assuming that since this was a green film and since Justin and Jamie had presented themselves as understanding and compassionate toward women, they thought they would be more empowered and in control, but I also don't want to ignore the fact that Blake Lively herself creates a lot of chaos on sets. She openly talks about wanting to work only with the best people. She sees herself as the most experienced, the person with the biggest vision. And regardless of what was happening around her with other people, even though small disagreements happened during filming, hardly any cast members wanted nothing to do with Justin until Blake got into their ear. For example, Jenny Slate didn't like him or Jamie. Blake didn't like him or Jamie. But there is nothing showing that other actresses or crew disliked him on their own. Many of them didn't have complaints until Blake got involved with Isabella. Before that, there were no complaints. One of the statements Alex Sachs made in her deposition was that some cast didn't want to work with him based on what they had heard happened, not what they experienced. But what they heard, this part of her deposition is important. During the time of the book Mania, did you come to understand that certain cast and crew did not want to appear in press and promotion with Mr. Baldoni? Alex said yes, and who? I don't remember exactly, but I want to say everyone except Hassan. Would that have been Ms. Lively, Ms. Slate, Ms. Ferrer, Mr. Sleaner, and Ms. Hoover who did not, and Ms. Hall, who did not want to appear in press or promotion with Mr. Baldoni, correct? Then it also excludes the actor Alex who played the young Atlas. Did you understand why these individuals did not want to appear in press or promotion with Mr. Baldoni? I believe because of everything that had transpired, or what they had heard had transpired. What they heard, Ms. Ferrer and Mr. Sleaner didn't have complaints until they heard what had transpired. So if your goal is to get people on your side, the easiest tactic is to poison them against someone else, to create conflicts that didn't exist and to convince them that things happened when they didn't. This was a huge production, extremely high stress, and at multiple points in her deposition, Alex made clear that it was overwhelming for her and for Justin. She also said that when disagreements happened, they got resolved and he apologized. But she also called Justin a narcissist. It's Hollywood, there are a lot of egos here. I don't know if he qualifies as a narcissist. Either way, she said he was, but she also said she wasn't a doctor. What's clear in the motion for summary judgment is that while Blake goes through all her statements of fact, she keeps repeating, Justin did this, Justin did that, everyone hates Justin, 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 Justin. But all of that is blacked out. Most of it is redacted. The core issues at the start of the set came from two people, Blake and Jenny, with their complaints. It was Blake and Jenny who wanted a different director. And it was Jenny who demanded that Jamie Heath not be on set and that she never wanted to see him again. TW. All the comments about sexy, ignored, the dancing, ignored, the conversations about his genitals, which by the way, apparently was just him saying he was circumcised. Without context, we have no clue why they were talking about it. Maybe she had just had a baby boy, I don't know, all her claims about Justin being rude to Alex, yelling at her, making her uncomfortable, Alex not wanting to work there, Jenny not liking him, Jenny not liking Jamie, all the complaints about he called us sexy, he had lingering kisses, he improvised kisses. After literally 35 pages of all that, she spends 4 pages total on the sexual harassment. 4. And she clearly acknowledges, and I think she knows, that the claims against Baldoni are flimsy. Because she doesn't even argue that the sexual harassment claims should go to trial.